Insight. I'm State Representative Kevin Mannix from Salem, and I'm your host for this program, which is designed to give all of us a little more insight about Oregon and the goings-on in our capital area here in the city of Salem. Our guest today is a gentleman who is the manager of the Oregon Tourism Division in the Economic Development Department, Joe Alessandro. Welcome to Capital Insight.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here.
We often like to start off just by talking a little bit about people that are in state government in terms of their personal background to sort of give us a better feeling for you. Tell us a little bit about your education, your family, that sort of thing.
Well, I actually have, my family's been in the West for a long time. They came overland on the Oregon Trail in 1855 and settled in Northern California and were involved in ranching and still are, as a matter of fact. And a variety of ranch operations throughout the area, and I became involved in tourism shortly after I graduated from college. I went to school at the University of Florence in Italy, and also at California State University in Sacramento. Got involved in tourism promotion, and have been involved in the industry for about 12 years.
Now, is Alessandro an Italian name?
Yes, it is. It's an Italian origin.
So what caused you to, was it family and Italian origins that caused you to want to go to the University of Florence, or was there some other attraction?
Well, actually, I got my degree in Western civilization, and there was a program at the University of Florence that I found very attractive, and I think there was a little family pull that encouraged me to go back there, too. And it was a great experience, and I'm glad I did. Helped me to learn a little bit about tourism too, because obviously the industry in many Western European countries like Italy is very important to the overall economic well-being of the country, and I think that provided some of the foundations for my eventual interest in tourism and economic development.
Oh, as Florence said, is it Fiorenzo or something like that?
Firenze.
Firenze in Italian?
That's correct.
So you brought back a little bit maybe of that Italian dash to this job?
Well, maybe. Like to think of it. You know, some of the techniques maybe. I don't know what it is. At least I know how to cook Italian meals, so whenever that comes in handy, I think I can handle that.
So how did you, what sort of things did you do on your way to the manager's job to head the division of tourism?
Well, I spent about 5 years in a retail travel agency that had operations both bringing people to the United States and taking groups from the United States to other countries, building group tours or individual itineraries. I also worked for a wholesaler, which is kind of the step between the product and the retail travel agency. And we would actually put together some of the travel product, whether they're special interest type of tours to go to a conference or a function, or again, just general interest travel and tourism itineraries. Then after that, I went to work for the California Office of Tourism. And I was there for about 6 years developing their international marketing program. And that led me to the role here in Oregon, and I think it was a great build-up for where we are in the state today, and provided me with a variety of background both on the international level, from a major destination as California, but also seeing it from the private sector level too. Now,
as you came here with all these ideas, I would think, have you found that Oregonians are receptive to building up a tourism industry for our state?
Sure, because I think that once people realize what the real role of tourism is in the state, I think it can be a benefit to everybody. And our role in the tourism division is certainly not to develop this huge industry. We don't want to see major theme parks or the industry to take over the state by any means. But we do feel that travel and tourism can really fit in well with the lifestyle of Oregonians and really well with what Oregonians want, and help us to preserve our quality of life and our lifestyle, and at the same time bring in some needed revenue to some of our cities and counties and rural areas. I think that it's one of our goals is not for the quantity of tourists. We're not looking for numbers. We're looking for the quality of tourists. The tourists that will come here during the off-season that help keep shops in the black year-round and to keep restaurants open and keep people employed. So we're not looking for numbers. We're looking for people that stay longer and really contribute well to what we look for as Oregonians. So I think that the mix can be real helpful to our state.
In trying to develop this, and I kidded about bringing ideas from California or from Italy for that matter, have you found that there is some intermixing of ideas that you're able to try to draw from experience in other areas and inculcate some of those ideas here in Oregon?
I think without doubt. I think that that's one of the beauties is in the travel and tourism industry. It's changing so fast every day, but there are a lot of basic fundamentals that have been going on for a long time. The fact is, it's interesting talking about going to Europe, because certain parts of Europe have been in the travel industry for 2,000 years, and they've had visitors coming and exploring and experiencing a destination, and we have the same issues. We talk about growth issues, we talk about how it affects the quality of life of the residents, and it's interesting to see how some of those communities have dealt with it, how they've been able to work the industry so it not only is something that provides some economic benefit, but also doesn't infringe on their quality of life as a residents. And I think we can learn from that, and can learn from some of the communities that have been in it for a long time, or some of the people that have been in it for a long time. Bringing an exchange of ideas, I think, is very healthy.
When you talk about quality of life, it would seem to me that I take a look at this as certain island environments that are very attractive for visitation. The very thing that makes them attractive is open space and beaches and the like. And as they build up, they tend to reach a point where they have diminishing returns, because as they continue to build infrastructure, they are then degrading the very things that draw people, and then you may end up with more people arriving, but perhaps less quality people who are less interested in I would like to say the finer things about an island environment and that sort of thing. And should we think of Oregon as sort of a super island where we need to be careful about degrading our own environment, but at the same time bringing folks in to help who can help enhance it and enjoy it?
I think that's very much the case. We're very concerned about maintaining that balance, because for the industry, our state and our communities and our natural environment is our product. It's what we're able to sell and what we're able to bring revenue into the state. And it's very important that we're able to maintain that so that we have a product to showcase to visitors in the future, and also to maintain for our own residents and our own children and our own grandchildren as they go on. It's our legacy to pass down. And I think the sustainability of the industry and the communities is very, very important. I think that you'll see rural communities in Oregon that are learning the benefits of travel and tourism right now, but I think it's very important that they maintain that indigenous character and that rural flavor that's bringing visitors to them in the first place, because once that changes, and if they become like another destination, they're no longer unique, they no longer fill that niche. So like any product that we sell, it's important that we preserve that product so that we do have something that we can continue to market in the future.
So we want to be user-friendly for the tourists, but we also want to be Oregonian-friendly for maintaining our environment.
That's exactly right.
Tough balance to achieve.
It is, but I think that as the industry matures in Oregon, and it's really a fairly young industry as far as a leading industry, it's big today, generating almost $3.4 billion in revenues a year right now. But as we grow and mature, we're finding out the importance of that balance, and the importance that we don't only want to market Oregon as a destination, but we need to make sure that the product is developed properly, maintained, and enhanced so that we have something to market in the future and have something that we can all be proud of, both as an Oregonian and as a visitor.
I'm going to switch gears a little on you, because I didn't ask about your family. Do you have family here now? Or?
Yes, I do. I have a wife who teaches public school here in Oregon, and a 10-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son.
So you have to think about their future too.
Absolutely, no question.
Now, when you're looking at that as a state official and trying to sell the state to others, do you find that working with the private sector, having had private sector background as well as government background in California, that you have some special insights from that perspective?
Absolutely, no question. And that's really been my main push since I've come here, is to get the private sector more involved in what we do in the Oregon Tourism Division. And I feel that to really judge the success of what a government agency like ourselves, who is involved in marketing, is really judged on the support that we get from the private sector. We established a goal, one of our strategic plan goals a few years ago is to get a dollar per dollar match for every dollar that the state invests in marketing, that we would get a private sector dollar to match that by 1997. We were able to meet this year, and I think that that's a real showcase of how important it is and how important that teamwork becomes, because our budget in the scope of things is very small. In fact, it's the fourth smallest budget of all 50 states right now. And if we were by ourselves with that, we have a state like Idaho to our east that has a budget almost twice as big as ours in terms of marketing. California obviously has a budget significantly larger than ours. we can't do it alone, and we need the partnership with the private sector to really capitalize and to maximize what the state's investment in the program is.
Well, I'm going to want to pick up on that, but I'll mention to our audience for a moment that you're with us on Capital Insight. I'm State Representative Kevin Mannix from Salem, and I'm your host for this program, designed to give us all a little more insight into the doings of state government here in the Salem area and around the state. Our guest is Joe Alessandro. He is the manager of the tourism division. I always want to say department. Tourism division of the Economic Development Department. And I want you folks to know, if at any time you have any questions or concerns, feel free to write to me at Capital Insight, H395, Salem, Oregon 97310. We're always happy to hear from you. Picking up on, Joe, this discussion of the private sector involvement and partnerships, have you found that there's some other areas in the private sector that help you, such as the film and video development, or getting the Japanese, where they had that soap opera named Oregon, that sort of stuff? How does that impact your job?
It's very critical to the success of our job, because when we try to market Oregon, we're not marketing Oregon only as a place to visit. We're also marketing it as a place to do business and a place to invest in. And so it's very, very important that we project a positive image of Oregon out there in the marketplace and look at whatever partner is possible for us to work with. And I'll give you a couple examples. Japan is a huge potential market for us. We're sitting on the Pacific Rim. Their outbound travel around the world, but to North America in particular, is growing. Up to this point, Oregon has had a relatively small market share. We have absolutely no dollars to go into that market aggressively and to buy advertising or to get in the market like we would like to. So we have to look for partners out there. We have to look for partners that will make some sense, that can leverage a very small amount of lottery dollars that we have into a much larger promotion. At the same time, our tourism industry in Oregon is basically mom and pop businesses. It's small business. We do not have the Disneylands and the Universal Studios. So our challenge is pulling together these small businesses, again with limited resources, a limited lottery dollar, but at the same time make an impact in Japan. We've come together with this one promotion that we're working on right now with a Japanese dairy company, believe it or not. And they are looking at marketing this new yogurt flavor. And they're looking around the world to find the perfect strawberry that they can put in this yogurt. And lo and behold, they find it in Oregon. So we're working with this yogurt company to market their now called Oregon strawberry yogurt to a national audience in Japan by coming over here, filming their commercials with these beautiful panorama and sweeping views of Oregon, giving trips to Oregon as prizes for people that buy their yogurt and fill in the entry blank. But again, build the image of Oregon in the Japanese marketplace with a minimal, if negligible, investment on our part, but find that partner that mixes. You wouldn't think of a yogurt company or a dairy company as somebody that would be mounting a tourism campaign in Japan, but we find the partners where it works, and where, if it's film and video or if it's our agricultural industry, we see tremendous opportunities for partnerships.
Now, your film and video operation, which is another division in the Economic Development Department, has had some success, significant success, in bringing productions to Oregon. I assume that to some extent, beyond even the advertising of the Oregon strawberry yogurt or whatever, that there's some opportunity there to create impressions when films are made in Oregon and that sort of thing. Do they talk to you much about that? And do you, for instance, do you get local hotels and motels and restaurants to provide some cut rate support for a film operation to interest them in an area or anything like that?
Very much so. We feel it's critical not only to work with the private sector, but work with other branches of government, whether they're state government or federal government, to be the most effective and efficient you can with the job. And the film and video division is one that we work especially close with, because we're both trying to do the same thing, both trying to provide some economic impact into some of these communities. And we work very closely together to try to bring the tourism industry together to help out the film and video industry to get production work done. I'll give you an example of some of the cases where it's worked exceedingly well. I don't know, a few years ago, if you remember seeing the Schwarzenegger film Kindergarten Cop,
Sure.
Filmed in Astoria. And Astoria was very prominently featured in this film, and it was very clear where it was, and it was very beautiful. Well, during a typical January, Astoria would have got probably the chamber would have got maybe 100 or 150 requests for information about traveling to Astoria or doing business in Astoria. After Kindergarten Cop was released, that same January got several thousand requests for visitor information into Astoria. So the visitor industry was able to see what the direct benefit was. If you're able to look pleasant on the film, and you can really capitalize that and bring visitors in there. So it really pays to work together anyway to open some exposure and to maximize that potential again.
That film, as opposed to human androids from outer space mutate and destroy the town of Astoria and glop on the screen.
Yeah, I think that would have had a different impact, at least on the community.
We need to be selective about what kind of films we encourage, but we have had success with those.
We've had some tremendous success, and I think that we'll be seeing more and more of that go on as Hollywood looks at Oregon as a great place to film, a great place to do a variety of films. We've got such a vast amount of landscape, from cities to small towns to coastas to verdant valleys to high desert, that really has an opportunity to use a lot of Oregon that hasn't been seen before in the films.
If you put it in that context, have you also regionalized your effort to try to emphasize the special characteristics of different parts of the state? Can you tell us something about that?
Yes, certainly. A lot of our publications and our marketing activities are really focused on special, what we call in the industry, niches or niches that correspond at least to our state geographically. We, when we're marketing the eastern part of our state, for example, which is an up-and-coming area that has really found tourism in the last few years as a tremendous assistance in its economic diversification, we can really focus on this Western history lore and outdoor recreation. And the whole romance of the West has been something that has been tremendous for us to do. In fact, we have got into some significant German language publications in Germany as a result of some of our Western stories we've been able to place because of the Oregon Trail, or because some of the Native American culture and the example, the museum at Warm Springs that opened just recently, has really enabled us to market that Western history, whereas before people thought of Arizona or Colorado or some other parts when they thought of places to go and explore the West. Also, the coast, for example, is a great place for us to focus in on some of not only the things that you would associate with the coast, but driving tours, going out and getting out into your vehicle and exploring your area. Some of the coastal driving tours that we've been able to develop have been especially popular in some of the marketplaces in Oregon and outside of the state.
As we're doing all of this, should we try to consider whether or not there are some local industries that could be developed to supplement the motel and restaurant type industries? I'm thinking of, I hate to use the term dude ranches, but for Eastern Oregon, I would think that a city slicker such as myself or a suburban slicker might enjoy the opportunity to go to an area where you stay for a week and you're on a real sort of a working ranch and you get to help out, but sort of laid back. You learn, maybe you do some horseback riding or whatever. My impression would be normally folks would think of that as being terribly expensive, and on the other hand, in Oregon, maybe it wouldn't be. And do we have anything like that out there?
Yes, we do, as a matter of fact. There are a number of working ranches, working guest ranches or dude ranches in operation in Oregon, and that number is growing, and we're real anxious to market that because that is very much a growing market segment. It's interesting because these people that go and they'll pay good money to spend a week or two on a dude ranch or a working ranch, they're not coming there expecting to be waited on either. They're coming there expecting to go in and do some work. They want to help out. That's what their image of being on a Western ranch is. And it's not only in dude ranches, but also in farms. More and more farms are opening up a hospitality sector to go in and not only educate people what the farm is about, but also people want to work on a farm. It's amazing. People that, as a kid, spent time at their uncle or aunt's farm in the country, and they've always thought going to the summer and spending some time on the farm was an active experience. Now, as an adult, they want to recreate that experience and pay to open that. So we are actually working very closely with even the Oregon Department of Agriculture to develop that industry, both on the working ranches and the working farms, to capitalize on that special interest, because we feel that those special interests, those niches, are really what we have the best opportunity to grow in the future.
Well, I'll mention to our audience again for a moment that you're with us on Capital Insight. I'm your host, Representative Kevin Mannix from Salem, and our guest today is Joe Alessandro from the, I want to say department again, Division of Tourism of the State Economic Development Department. We've been talking about Oregon's role in terms of tourism, and particularly his role working with his division in enhancing our potential for tourism. I'm curious about how you seem to interrelate so many things, because we do have the big city sector with Portland and Eugene and Salem, and then you have the smaller cities, and then you have rural Oregon. Do you have groups who specialize in working with certain areas on this, or do you just try to cover the whole state? How do you operate that way?
No, we try to really focus on those niches that are market-driven niches, and by market-driven I mean those segments of the travel market that we feel that are growing and offer the greatest opportunity for growth in Oregon. So we have a very small staff. In fact, again, when I talk about our budget size, our staff is the fourth smallest in the country, next to Iowa, which is a statistic that we always like to throw out there. But we have a staff person that focuses on rural development. And what they will do primarily is work with the rural communities who are looking at expanding their tourism industry in their community. But also, they'll work with, for example, tour operators or travel agents who are looking at developing new tour packages that might be included in a brochure to encourage them to spend a little bit more time in Oregon and maybe get off the interstate and come and visit some of our smaller communities. We also have people that are specialized in environmental-based tourism. Adventure travel, which is certainly one of Oregon's strong points in adventure travel, everything from skiing to whitewater rafting to sailboarding to you name it. There's a variety of adventure type of travel. Again, because we feel that the more specialized we can get to meet those growing market segments, the better services we're able to provide and the better position we'll be in to grow and to capitalize on that area.
How about something like the Oregon Sampler? I'm just making this up, but I'm just curious as to where someone could say, gee, I'd like to go to Oregon, but over a 2 weeks period of time, I'd like to be able to sample a variety of aspects of Oregon life, maybe farm life, ranch life, not necessarily work on the ranch or farm, but be there for a while. Has anyone tried to package sort of an Oregon experience where you have, of course, we're such a big state physically, maybe that's hard to do, but covering different aspects?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we've come up with a number of sample itineraries that people can take if individuals or groups are looking at maybe they only have 2 days and they want to experience a sample of what they can get in Oregon in 2 days. We'll suggest some itineraries that they could do. If they have 14 days, they're going to really be able to experience a whole different side of Oregon. So we'll have a variety of these sample itineraries that we'll provide to tourism professionals, to the media who write those stories in our Sunday newspapers, or to tour operators and travel agents who are basically putting these packages together that will give them an idea of what they can sample or different types of tours that they could do on their own. Also for the individual consumer, for example, if they would like to say they're interested in knowing what they can do in a free day or several days in Oregon, we have one of our programs that has met with the most success is a driving tour program. That we have developed these brochures that people can call our 800 number and get sent to them a brochure that gives sample itineraries of driving tours around the state that give different feels or different suggestions. And I'll be happy to share that number on the program if anybody's interested in getting that.
Share the number.
The number is 1-800-547-7842. And people can call and ask for a state travel guide or a driving tour guide and get an idea of some of the way we market Oregon and also get out and experience Oregon themselves. Because I think one of the interesting things is we talk about tourism and where the tourists come from. Of all the visitors you see on the streets of Oregon, 2/3, 66% are Oregonians themselves. People from one part of the state going to explore another part of the state. And we're certainly interested in that and developing that and encouraging Oregonians to explore more of Oregon. And before you spend your money in California or Washington or Idaho, spend some of your money exploring your own backyard. So we're interested in that market too.
Mention that number again,
1-800-547-7842.
Okay, 7842. 1-800-547-7842. Maybe I'll even memorize it.
You can call and get some driving tour suggestions.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned this about Oregonians visiting Oregon. I remember early on, I've been an Oregonian for 20 years now, an adoptive Oregonian. And shortly after we came here, we went to Bend to visit. And we met a gal from Portland who was about 22 years old, and it was the first time in her life that she had crossed the Cascade Mountains to Central Oregon. And we'd barely been here, a few months maybe, and had to get out and explore. And to some extent, Oregonians need to be encouraged to visit their own state.
Definitely. We've done some research that we find quite alarming, as a matter of fact. We've done these focus group studies where we'll pull together just consumers that are picked randomly because of areas that they live or whatever. And for example, we did a group recently in the Portland area and talked about where they go on vacation, and found out that a number of these get on I-5 and head down to Disneyland but have never been to Crater Lake. And we found our challenge is we need to educate Oregonians more about the opportunities there are here in their own state. And there are some phenomenal parts of this state that, that people have not seen yet. And that's one of our challenges, but it's certainly one of the things that we really want to focus on, letting us know, letting our own friends and neighbors and family know about the opportunities that are not that far away.
People come here from Japan, Germany, France, England to go to whatever, and some folks who are 100 miles away haven't quite made it.
That's exactly right. One of the most amazing trips that I've ever taken in this state, and I'll never forget it, shortly after I moved here, and I'm proud to say that I too love this state and adopted this state, but was a drive I took to the John Day fossil beds in north central Oregon, and driving up through John Day, through Fossil and that area was one of those heart-dropping experiences for me. The panorama was phenomenal, the history was phenomenal, the people were warm, and I came back and I would share my excitement about this area with people, and I found out people that were born here had never visited the area, but I think it's our challenge to get up and encourage people to go and explore.
Is part of it the fear of the unknown, that is, people aren't used to going to certain places, and, well, you all hear about going to Disneyland, so you get on I-5, you're used to the interstate, you drive straight for, I don't know, 8, 10 hours, whatever it is, and there you are, but they're not used to the notion of, well, what's it like across the mountains? Should we try to develop some more youth exchange programs or vacation programs for families where we can, I'm just making this up, but I'm just curious as to whether we could ever convince high school graduation groups, instead of going to New York or San Francisco, maybe you want to go to Eastern Oregon and get on a ranch for a few days.
I think that's very much the case. I think the key is education. I think once people become more familiar with what's available in our own state, they're going to they want to explore it themselves. And those exchange groups are real important. We've gone to some of the rural communities, and I'll give you an example of Lakeview in Lake County, which is a great area that has really been able to expand its tourism product recently, has had a lot of success with elder hostel programs, where they'll work in the summertime with senior groups, bring them in who will work and do various programs in the community, have a great time there, but then go back and share their enthusiasm with what they experience with their families, who in turn become more determined visitors. And I think groups like exchange groups, I think groups like elder hostel groups really do all fall into the whole marketing niche, which is what we're looking for when we market Oregon. Internationally, I think one of our most successful areas are exchange programs of students. We've seen large numbers of Japanese students who come over here for a semester or for a year, live in a home in Oregon, and become true ralliers of Oregon abroad, and come back later as visitors or bring their families over. The same thing can apply in our own cities. We can get people more and more from our own community schools taking field trips to more parts of the state and really start to learn more about what Oregon has to offer. And I can assure you that once people do get out and explore it, they're going to be really happy with what they see and really want to do more and more of it.
What do you see as your main developments? We only have about a minute left in terms of the session. Will you be pushing for some new directions, or just trying to amplify what you're already doing?
We've gone through a very long process with the industry, with the public and private sector, to establish our goals and priorities and find out where we need to take ourselves to make sure that Oregon works for travel in Oregon works for Oregonians in the future. We've established those priorities. We also feel that we're a great return on our investment. For every dollar the state spends on advertising, 20 new dollars are brought back into the economy. I think that we just have to communicate the fact that we have worked together to streamline our operations, work with the private sector and the public sector, bring them together, and that for every dollar the state invests in lottery funds and tourism, it brings back more dollars to help other programs like education and everything else that we need. So I think that we're a smart investment for the future, and it's a growing force.
Well, there you have it, a growing force, tourism in Oregon. You've been hearing from Joe Alessandro, our guest. Thank you very much, Joe, for joining us, and thank you folks for joining us in the audience.